Nari wiped the sweat from her face as she carefully brushed sand away from the ancient stone. The red desert of Kepler 442b stretched endlessly in all directions, but here in this hidden valley she had found something amazing. The ruins were older than anything humans had ever discovered. "Look at these symbols," she called to Thexval, her voice excited. "They match the patterns we found on Xerion Prime. This could prove that the same civilization spread across multiple star systems." Thexval moved closer, his blue crystalline skin catching the light of the twin suns. He was tall and strong like all Vorthons, with sharp features that made him look like he was carved from sapphire. His people were known throughout the galaxy as warriors and leaders. Nari still could not believe that someone like him had chosen her as his mate. "Your work continues to impress me, beloved," Thexval said, using the Vorthon word that meant deep affection. His voice carried the musical quality of his species, and Nari felt the familiar warmth in her chest when he spoke to her this way. They had been bonded for 3 years now. Nari had learned the Vorthon language, their customs, even their complex mating rituals. She had given up her position at the Earth Archaeological Institute to work alongside him. Her human colleagues thought she was crazy, but Nari believed their union represented something important. Humans and aliens working together, sharing knowledge, building a better future. The dig site buzzed with activity. Their mixed team of human and Vorthon researchers worked under large shade covers to protect them from the harsh desert sun. Nari had been the one to suggest this location after studying ancient star maps. The ruins were buried deep, but her instincts had been right. "The power readings are getting stronger," called Dr. Martinez from the scanning station. "Whatever is down there, it is still active after all these thousands of years." Nari felt her heart race. Active technology from an ancient civilization could change everything. The galaxy was full of dead ruins and broken artifacts, but finding working technology was incredibly rare. This could be the discovery of a lifetime. Thexval placed his hand on her shoulder. Through their bond, she could feel his excitement too. The Vorthons were telepathic, and bonded mates could share emotions. Right now she sensed something like hunger in him, but she thought it was just eagerness for the discovery. "We should dig deeper," she said. "If the scans are right, the main chamber is only a few meters down." The work continued through the day. As the suns began to set, painting the desert an even deeper red, they broke through into a large underground chamber. Nari was the first to climb down, her headlamp cutting through the darkness. What she saw took her breath away. The chamber was huge, with walls covered in the same symbols they had been finding. But in the center stood something incredible, a device that looked like it was made of liquid metal, constantly shifting and flowing. It hummed with power, and strange lights danced across its surface. "Thexval, you have to see this," she called up through the opening. He dropped down beside her, followed by 2 of his Vorthon warriors who served as guards for the expedition. When they saw the device, Nari felt a wave of intense emotion through their bond. It was stronger than anything she had experienced before, a mixture of greed, triumph, and something else she could not identify. "What do you think it is?" she asked. Thexval walked around the device slowly, his eyes wide. "The power signature. This could be a faster-than-light drive, but not like anything we know. This technology could revolutionize space travel." Nari began taking pictures and measurements. "We need to document everything carefully before we try to move it. This discovery belongs to everyone, humans and Vorthons alike." That night they made camp near the dig site. The desert was cold after the sun set, and Nari sat close to Thexval by their heating unit. She was tired but happy. This discovery could make her career, but more importantly, it could bring their peoples closer together. "I am proud of you, Nari," Thexval said, stroking her dark hair. "Your species has many talents." Something in the way he said "your species" made her feel strange, but she pushed the feeling away. Maybe it was just the translation from Vorthon to human language. The next morning brought a sandstorm. The wind howled across the desert, and the air filled with stinging particles. The team secured their equipment and took shelter in their prefab buildings, waiting for the storm to pass. But the storm was worse than expected. Communications went down first, then the power to their main shelter. Nari found herself separated from the others in the chaos, with only Thexval and his 2 guards. "We need to get to the emergency shelter," she shouted over the wind. Thexval grabbed her arm, but instead of leading her to safety, he pulled her away from the camp. The 2 guards flanked them as they struggled through the storm. "Where are we going?" Nari asked, confused. They stopped at a small emergency supply cache about a kilometer from the main camp. Thexval opened it and pulled out a water recycler and some food packets. But instead of sharing them, he set them aside. Thexval, what are you doing? He turned to face her, and Nari felt her heart stop. The warmth in his eyes was gone, replaced by cold calculation. Through their bond, she felt nothing, as if he had shut her out completely. Your usefulness has ended, human, he said, his voice flat and emotionless. What do you mean? I do not understand. The device in the ruins, my people need it. But we needed human archaeological skills to find it. Your species has always been good at digging through dirt and finding lost things. Nari felt the world spinning around her. But we are bonded. You said you loved me. Thexval laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Love, you actually believed that? The bonding was just a way to keep you cooperative. Your emotions made it easy to manipulate you. One of the guards stepped forward with a device Nari recognized, a communication disruptor. He activated it, and Nari heard the crackle of electronics being fried. Their emergency beacon, their backup communicator, everything was destroyed. You cannot do this, Nari whispered. I can, and I will, Thexval said. The galaxy belongs to the strong, Nari. Your people are weak, emotional, easily controlled. You served your purpose. Now you are no longer needed. He dropped the water recycler and food packets at her feet. Perhaps you will last a few days. Humans are surprisingly resilient for such a primitive species. The guards turned and walked away, disappearing into the sandstorm. Thexval looked back at her one last time. Goodbye, little human. Thank you for the discovery. It will serve the Vorthan Empire well. Then he was gone, leaving Nari alone in the vast red desert with death all around her. Nari sat in the sand for a long time after Thexval disappeared. The storm raged around her and she wanted to give up. Everything she had believed about her life was a lie. The man she loved, the future she had planned, the bond she thought they shared, all fake. But as the wind started to die down, something inside her refused to quit. She was a scientist, trained to solve problems. She was human, and humans did not give up easily. The first thing she did was take inventory. The water recycler could clean and purify any liquid she found. The food packets would last maybe 3 days if she was careful. She had her archaeological tools, her scanner, and the clothes on her back. It was not much, but it was something. Nari remembered her survival training from the academy. The desert was hot during the day and cold at night. She needed shelter, water, and food. The ruins were too far away now, lost in the storm, but she had studied the orbital surveys of this area. There were other sites nearby. She started walking. The first day was the hardest. The twin suns beat down mercilessly, and the sand seemed to stretch forever. But Nari kept moving, rationing her water and looking for anything useful. Her scanner detected mineral deposits that meant underground water might be nearby. On the second day, she found a small oasis, just a trickle of water coming out of some rocks. It was not much, but the recycler made it safe to drink. She also found some desert plants that looked familiar from her xenobotany studies. Her scanner confirmed they were not poisonous. By the third day, Nari had figured out how to make a shelter using rocks and her emergency blanket. She was getting better at finding edible plants and water sources. The desert was harsh, but it was not empty. Life found a way to survive here, and so would she. She also found more ruins. These were smaller than the main dig site, but they had the same symbols. Nari spent hours studying them with her scanner. The ancient civilization had built all over this area. There were patterns in the symbols that she was starting to understand. It gave her something to focus on besides her anger and hurt. On the fourth day, she made a discovery that changed everything. Hidden in a small cave, she found more of the liquid metal technology. This piece was smaller, about the size of her fist, but it was definitely the same material. When she touched it, symbols appeared on its surface, symbols that matched what she had been studying. Nari realized she might be the only person in the galaxy who could read this ancient language. Thexval had taken the big device, but he would not understand how to use it. The symbols were not just decoration, they were instructions. For the first time since being abandoned, Nari smiled. On the 8th day, she was weak and tired, but still alive. She had learned to move at night when it was cooler and rest during the hot days. Her food was almost gone, but she had found enough plants and collected enough water to survive a little longer. That was when she saw the ship. It was flying low over the desert, clearly in trouble. Smoke trailed from one engine and it was losing altitude fast. Nari watched it crash land about 2 kilometers away and immediately started running toward it. The ship was human-made, she could tell from the design. It was a salvage vessel called the Teguk, and it had definitely seen better days. The hull was patched in multiple places and the landing had not been gentle. Nari approached carefully. She did not know if the crew was friendly, but she needed help. As she got closer, she heard someone cursing in Korean. A man emerged from the ship checking the damaged engine. He was medium height with dark hair and looked to be in his 30s. His clothes were practical: work pants, boots, and a shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He moved with the confidence of someone used to fixing problems. "Hello?" Nari called out. The man spun around surprised. He had kind eyes and a face that looked honest. "What the hell? Where did you come from?" "I am Dr. Kim Nari," she said. "I was abandoned here 8 days ago. My ship is gone and I need help." The man looked her up and down, taking in her torn clothes and sunburned skin. "You have been in the desert for 8 days? Alone?" "Yes. Holy shit. Sorry, excuse my language. I'm Captain Park Jin-ho." He gestured to his ship. "Welcome to the Teguk. She is not pretty, but she is home." Jin-ho helped Nari into his ship. It was small but clean, with everything organized efficiently. He gave her water and real food while she told him her story. She explained about the archaeological expedition, about Thexval, about being left to die. Jin-ho listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. "That blue-skinned bastard just left you here?" he said finally. "Yes, he said humans were weak and that I had served my purpose." Jin-ho shook his head. "Humans do not abandon their own. And you are definitely one of us no matter who you were bonded to before." Nari felt tears in her eyes. It was the first kindness anyone had shown her in over a week. "What brings you to this desert?" she asked, wanting to change the subject. Jin-ho pointed to his damaged engine. "Salvage run gone wrong. I was checking out a crashed Vorthan scout ship when their patrol found me. Had to run, but they damaged my hyperdrive. Forced to land here for repairs. You fight Vorthans?" "I do not fight anyone if I can help it. But I do not let them push me around either. Used to be in the Earth Defense Force, now I work for myself." Nari showed him the small artifact she had found. "This is ancient technology. It might be worth something." Jin-ho examined it carefully. "Never seen anything like it. But if you say it is valuable, I believe you. You survived 8 days in the desert. You know what you are talking about." Over the next few days, while Jin-ho repaired his ship, Nari helped him understand what she had discovered. She explained about the ruins, the ancient civilization, and the technology that Thexval had stolen. "So your ex-boyfriend has super advanced FTL tech, and he is probably going to give it to the Vorthan military," Jin-ho said. "That is right, and he thinks I am dead, so he will not be expecting any problems." Jin-ho grinned. "Good, I like it when enemies underestimate humans. Makes it easier to surprise them. You want to help me? Lady, you survived more than a week in one of the harshest environments in the galaxy. You figured out ancient alien technology while dying of thirst. You are exactly the kind of person I want on my team." Nari felt something she had not felt since the betrayal. Hope. "What do you suggest?" "First we get off this rock. Then we figure out how to make your ex-boyfriend regret leaving you behind. It will be dangerous. The Vorthans are powerful." Jin-ho started up his repaired engines. "So are humans when we are properly motivated. And right now I am very motivated." As the Teguk lifted off from the desert planet, Nari looked back at the red sands where she had almost died. Thexval thought he had discarded her like a broken tool. Instead, he had created his worst enemy. She was no longer the naive archaeologist who had trusted an alien with her heart. The desert had burned that person away, leaving someone harder and smarter behind. Someone who understood that survival was not about being strong or weak. It was about being human. 6 months after leaving the desert planet, Nari stood in a simple ceremony room on New Busan Station. She wore a white dress that Jin-ho had bought for her, and flowers that he had somehow found in the station's hydroponics bay. It was nothing like the elaborate Vorthan bonding ritual she had gone through with Thexval, but it felt more real. "Do you, Kim Nari, take Park Jin-ho to be your husband?" asked the station administrator. "I do," Nari said, looking into Jin-ho's eyes. There was no telepathic bond between them, no alien ritual, just two humans who had chosen each other. Jin-ho squeezed her hands gently. I do too, he said when it was his turn. They kissed as husband and wife while their small group of friends cheered. Captain Lee from the freight hauler Busan Princess had given Nari away. Engineer Chen from the repair dock had served as Jinho's best man. It was a family made of choice, not blood or species. The reception was held in Jinho's favorite bar on the station. Nari had learned to drink soju and play cards with the other salvage crews. These people did not care that she had been bonded to a Vorthon. They cared that she could fix their scanners, translate alien writing, and had survived alone in a desert for 8 days. To Nari and Jinho, called Captain Lee, raising her glass, "May your marriage be long and your enemies be short." Everyone laughed and drank. But Nari knew this was not just a celebration. It was also a war council. Over the past 6 months, disturbing news had reached the outer colonies. The Vorthons were expanding their territory more aggressively than ever before. Their ships had new technology that made them faster and more powerful. Thexaval had been promoted to High Commander and was being hailed as a hero for discovering ancient secrets. Nari knew the truth. The device from the ruins was being used to improve Vorthon military technology. Her archaeological work was helping them conquer other species. "We cannot let them get away with this," Nari had told Jinho weeks earlier. "What can we do? We are just 2 people. We find allies. We gather information. We make them pay." That was when they had contacted Admiral Lee Sujin of the Human Colonial Navy. She was known as someone who actually cared about protecting human settlements from alien threats. When Nari and Jinho arrived at her office on Titan Station, the Admiral listened to their story with growing concern. Admiral Lee was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had fought in the border conflicts with the hegemony worlds and knew how dangerous advanced alien technology could be. "You are telling me that the Vorthons have FTL technology that we have never seen before?" she asked. "Yes," Nari said. "And I am the only person who knows how it really works. Thexval stole the device, but he does not understand the control symbols. What do you need from us?" "Resources, a team. Access to intelligence about Vorthon military movements." Admiral Lee leaned back in her chair. "The Colonial Navy cannot officially support revenge operations." "This is not about revenge," Jinho said. "This is about stopping the Vorthons from using stolen human research to conquer the galaxy." "What kind of team are you thinking?" Nari pulled up holographic displays showing her analysis of the ancient technology. "We need someone who understands advanced computer systems. The artifacts are not just machines. They respond to biological inputs. Neural interfaces." "I know someone," Admiral Lee said. "Dr. Choi Minwoo. He is the best cybernetics expert in human space, but he has some issues with authority." "What kind of issues?" "He was kicked out of the Fleet Research Division for refusing to work on weapons that could be used against civilians. He is working private contracts now." "Sounds perfect," Jinho said. Dr. Choi turned out to be a young man with nervous energy and hands that were always moving. Half his skull was covered with neural interface ports, and his eyes had been replaced with advanced cybernetic ones that could see across multiple spectrums. "You want me to help you hack ancient alien technology?" he asked when they met him on Ceres Station. "We want you to help us understand it," Nari corrected. "The devices respond to mental commands, but only if you know the right symbols and frequencies." Dr. Choi examined the small artifact that Nari had found in the desert. "This is incredible. The metal is not actually metal. It is some kind of programmable matter. And these neural patterns, they are designed to interface with organic brains. Can you make it work? Give me a week." While Dr. Choi worked on the artifact, Nari and Jinho gathered intelligence. They learned that Thexval was now commanding a Vorthon battle fleet, using the new technology to attack independent worlds. 3 human colonies had already fallen. "They are testing their new weapons on small targets," Admiral Lee told them during a secure communication. "But our analysts think they are preparing for something bigger." "How big?" Jinho asked. "Full invasion of human space." Nari felt anger burn in her chest. Thexval was not just a cheating ex-boyfriend anymore. He was a war criminal using her work to kill innocent people. "We have to stop him," she said. "The Colonial Navy is mobilizing," Admiral Lee said. "But their technology advantage is significant. We need something to level the playing field." That was when Dr. Choi made his breakthrough. "The artifact is not just a device," he explained, showing them his analysis. "It is a key. A master control for an entire network of ancient technology, and I think I know how to activate it. What do you mean? Nari asked. The symbols you have been studying, they are not just instructions. They are genetic locks. The ancient civilization designed their technology to only work for specific mental patterns. Brain structures. You mean it only works for certain species? No, not species, individuals. It is keyed to neural patterns that show specific traits. Intelligence, creativity, adaptability, Jinho grinned. Traits that humans have. Exactly. I think this technology was designed to be used by people like us. The Vorthans can copy the devices, but they cannot really control them. Only humans can unlock their full potential. Nari stared at the artifact. Thexval thinks he stole advanced weapons technology. But what he really stole was a test. A test for what? To find out which species deserves to inherit the galaxy. Over the next few weeks, they tested Dr. Choi's theory. The artifact responded to Nari's commands, allowing her to activate functions that even she had not expected. It could disrupt Vorthon communications, override their computer systems, even shut down their weapons. This changes everything, Admiral Lee said when they demonstrated the technology. With this, we might actually have a chance. What do you need us to do? Nari asked. The Vorthons are massing their fleet at the Kepler system, the same place where they abandoned you. They are using it as a staging area for their invasion. If we could get someone close enough to their command ship, someone who knows their technology and their culture, Jinho said. Understanding. Someone they think is dead, Nari added. Admiral Lee nodded. It is dangerous. If you are caught, the Colonial Navy cannot officially help you. Nari looked at Jinho, then at Dr. Choi. These people had become her real family, not because of some alien bonding ritual, but because they had chosen to stand with her. We are not doing this for the Colonial Navy, she said. We are doing this because it is right. That night, Nari and Jinho sat together in their quarters aboard the Teguk, planning their mission. Tomorrow they would leave for the Kepler system and face Thexval again. Are you scared? Jinho asked. Terrified, Nari admitted, but also excited. He thinks he broke me when he left me in that desert. Instead, he made me stronger. Humans are funny that way. We do not break easy. Nari smiled and kissed her husband. No, we do not. And Thexval is about to learn why that is a very bad thing for his people. Outside their window, stars wheeled slowly past as the Teguk prepared to jump to hyperspace. Nari had started this journey as a naive scientist who believed in cooperation between species. She was ending it as a warrior who understood that some fights could not be avoided. But she was not fighting for revenge anymore. She was fighting for the future. The Vorthan invasion began at dawn, Earth Standard Time. Nari watched from the bridge of the colonial defense ship Sejong as enemy vessels dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. They moved with the precision of a species that had conquered dozens of worlds, confident in their superiority. Admiral Lee Soo-jin stood beside her, studying the tactical displays. 47 Vorthon ships, including 3 command cruisers. They outnumber us 2-1. Numbers are not everything, Nari said, touching the ancient artifact now integrated into the ship's control systems. They expect us to fight like every other species they have conquered. The first human ships to engage the Vorthans used traditional tactics: direct assault, formation flying, coordinated strikes. They were destroyed quickly and efficiently. Nari watched good people die and felt her anger grow cold and focused. Phase 1 complete, Admiral Lee announced to the fleet. All ships switched to pattern chaos. That was when the real battle began. Human ships suddenly scattered in all directions, abandoning formation completely. They attacked individually using random flight patterns that made no tactical sense. Vorthon telepaths, trained to coordinate their fleet's movements by reading enemy intentions, found themselves overwhelmed by the sheer unpredictability of human tactics. Captain Yoon Tai-ho, Jinho's old squadron mate, led a group of fighters in a wild spinning attack that confused the Vorthon sensors. They cannot predict what we are going to do if we do not know ourselves, he called over the radio. Dr. Choi, linked into the colonial fleet's communication network through his neural interfaces, began broadcasting on Vorthon frequencies. But instead of military codes, he sent music, poetry, and random mathematical equations. The telepathic coordination between enemy ships started breaking down as their battle meditations were disrupted. How are they doing this? Came an intercepted Vorthon transmission. Their tactics make no sense. Nari smiled grimly. That is the point. You cannot counter chaos with logic. But the key part of their plan was still ahead. While the fleet battle raged, the Teguk slipped through the combat zone toward Thexaval's command ship. Nari had spent weeks studying intelligence reports about Vorthon military protocol. She knew exactly where he would be. Sensors are picking up the command cruiser Dominant Thought, Jinho reported from the pilot's seat. It is heavily shielded, but I can get us close. Remember, we only get one chance at this, Nari said. If we fail, the fleet falls back and Earth prepares for siege. No pressure. Dr. Choi muttered from his position at the technical station. The Taiguk approached the massive Vorthon ship using a route Nari had calculated based on her knowledge of their sensor blind spots. Vorthons were arrogant. They did not believe any enemy would be foolish enough to attack their flagship directly. Docking bay is ahead, Jinho said. But it is sealed and guarded. Nari activated the ancient artifact. Through her neural link, she felt the device respond to her commands. Ancient technology that had been dormant for thousands of years awakened at her touch. The Vorthon ship's computers, built with architecture derived from the same source, suddenly recognized a higher authority. The docking bay doors opened. How did you do that? Dr. Choi asked, amazed. The Vorthons have been using stolen technology for so long they forgot it was never really theirs. Nari explained. The ancient civilization built safeguards into everything. Master keys for those worthy to use them. They docked inside the enemy ship and quickly moved through the corridors. Nari's memories of Vorthon ship design served them well. She knew exactly how to reach the command center. The few guards they encountered were stunned by Dr. Choi's neural disruptors. Before they could raise an alarm, the command center of the Dominant Thought was a vast chamber filled with holographic displays showing the battle. Vorthon officers stood at their stations, their blue skin glowing with the stress of telepathic coordination. And in the center, on a raised platform, stood Thexval. He looked exactly as Nari remembered, tall, imposing, with the crystalline skin that had once seemed so beautiful to her. Now she saw only arrogance and cruelty in his sharp features. High Commander, one of his officers reported. The human ships are using unprecedented tactics. Our battle coordinators cannot establish predictive patterns. Impossible, Thexval said. Humans are primitive. They cannot innovate faster than we can adapt. That was when Nari stepped into the command center, followed by Jinho and Dr. Choi. The entire bridge fell silent. Vorthon warriors reached for their weapons, but froze when they saw Dr. Choi's targeting systems painting them with red dots. Hello, Thexval, Nari said calmly. The Vorthon commander stared at her as if seeing a ghost. You are dead. I left you in the desert to die. I got better. This is impossible. No human could survive what I put you through. Nari walked closer and Thexval actually took a step back. You know what your mistake was? You thought being Vorthon made you superior. But superiority is not about telepathy or crystal skin or ancient bloodlines. She activated the artifact and every screen in the command center flickered. Fourth-hand technology throughout the ship began responding to her commands instead of theirs. It is about adaptability, about surviving when everything goes wrong, about getting back up when someone knocks you down. What are you doing? Thexval demanded as his ship's system started shutting down. I am showing you what humans are really capable of, Nari said. Dr. Choi, please demonstrate our latest innovation. Dr. Choi interfaced directly with the Vorthon computers through his neural links. Within seconds, he had access to their entire fleet communication network. All Vorthon ships, this is Dr. Choi Min-woo of the Human Colonial Defense Force. Your command codes have been compromised. Your weapons are offline. Your engines are disabled. Surrender now and we will treat you honorably. Throughout the battle zone, Vorthon ships found themselves powerless. The ancient technology they had stolen and reverse-engineered was betraying them, responding to human commands instead of their own. You cannot do this, Thexval raged. We are the dominant species. We have conquered hundreds of worlds. Using stolen technology, Nari pointed out. Technology that was never meant for you. Jinho kept his weapon trained on the Vorthon guards while Nari continued her work. The ancient civilization that built these devices, they designed them to test species, to find out who had the qualities needed to inherit their legacy. Intelligence, creativity, the ability to adapt and survive, Dr. Choi added. Traits that Vorthons talk about but do not really possess. Traits that humans have in abundance, Nari finished. The battle was over. Human ships moved to secure the disabled Vorthon fleet while Nari completed her takeover of their command systems. She found databases full of information about their empire, their military plans, their weaknesses. "This is not over," Thexval said, his voice full of hate. "My people will never surrender to primitives like you." "Your people do not have a choice anymore," Nari replied. "But I am not interested in conquest. I am interested in justice." She turned to address the Vorthon bridge crew. "Your high commander abandoned me in a desert to die because he thought humans were weak and worthless. Today you learned how wrong he was." Captain Yun's voice came over the communication system. "Nari, Admiral Lee wants to know what you want done with the prisoners." Nari looked at Thexval one last time. He had once seemed so powerful, so sophisticated. Now she saw him for what he really was, a bully who had mistaken cruelty for strength. "Tell the Admiral that most of them will be treated according to the Colonial Accord on prisoners of war. But I have a special request for High Commander Thexval." "What do you want?" Thexval asked. Nari smiled, and for the first time in their relationship she saw fear in his eyes. "I want you to experience what it feels like to be abandoned by someone you trusted, to be left alone with minimal supplies on a hostile world, to discover whether you have what it takes to survive. You would not dare. Watch me." The human fleet departed the Kepler system in victory, carrying with them the secrets of Vorthon military technology, and proof that humans were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Word of the battle spread quickly through the galaxy. The mighty Vorthon Empire had been defeated by primitives using superior tactics and ancient technology. But for Nari, the real victory was personal. She had proven that humans did not break easily, and that betrayal only made them stronger. Thexval had thought abandoning her would eliminate a threat. Instead, he had created the weapon that destroyed his empire. 3 months after the Battle of Kepler, Nari stood in her new office on Terra Station, watching ships from a dozen species dock at the orbital port. The Human-Alien Cultural Exchange Institute was bustling with activity, and she could hardly believe how much had changed. The victory over the Vorthons had sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Species that had been oppressed by the Empire for centuries were declaring independence. Others, who had never taken humans seriously before, were now sending diplomatic missions to Earth. "The Zelkari delegation has arrived," her assistant announced. "They are very interested in our archaeological research programs." Nari smiled. The Zelkari had blue-green skin and 6 arms, and were known as master artisans. A year ago they would not have given humans a second glance. Now they wanted to learn from her. Jinho entered her office carrying 2 cups of coffee and a datapad full of reports. Marriage had been good for both of them. He had traded his salvage ship for a position as head of security for the Institute, using his military experience to keep their researchers safe on dangerous worlds. "The morning briefings," he said, handing her the reports. "And Admiral Lee sends her congratulations on the Institute's first year of operation." Nari scanned the reports while sipping her coffee. 3 new archaeological sites had been discovered using ancient artifact technology. Dr. Choi had successfully created neural interfaces that allowed other species to use the devices safely. And most importantly, dozens of civilizations had joined what the galactic media was calling the Human Alliance. "Any word from our special guest?" she asked. Jinho grinned. "As a matter of fact, yes. The monitoring station sent this morning's report." He activated a holographic display showing a barren desert world on the edge of Vorthon space. The planet, designated XK7339, had no official name, but the human personnel stationed there called it Justice. On the screen, a lone figure moved slowly across red sand dunes. Thexval looked very different from the proud commander who had once abandoned Nari to die. His crystalline skin was dull and cracked from exposure. His elegant robes had been replaced by simple survival gear. He carried a water recycler and moved with the careful pace of someone conserving energy. "Day 97 of exile," the monitoring officer reported. "Subject has successfully established a shelter near the water source at grid reference 7 Alpha. He appears to be learning to identify edible plants. Has he tried to signal for rescue?" Nari asked. "Multiple times in the first month. But he stopped after we intercepted and ignored his messages. He seems to have accepted his situation." Nari watched her former mate struggle to set up a solar collector. It was the same kind of equipment she had used during her own desert survival. But Thexval was clearly having trouble with it. "He is learning," Jinho observed. Slowly, but he is learning. Good. The point is not to kill him. It is to teach him what it means to be truly alone. The exile had been Nari's idea, and surprisingly, many Vorthon leaders had supported it. The defeat at Kepler had triggered a civil war within their empire, with different factions blaming each other for the disaster. Thexval had become a convenient scapegoat for their failures. Rather than execute him, the new Vorthon government had agreed to let humans carry out their own justice. Nari had chosen exile on a desert world, the same fate Thexval had intended for her, but with one crucial difference. They were monitoring his survival and would rescue him if he was truly about to die. The irony is beautiful, Dr. Choi had said when they first discussed the punishment. He wanted to prove that humans were weak by abandoning you. Now we are proving that humans are strong by not abandoning him. A chime from Nari's desk indicated an incoming priority message. She accepted the call and Admiral Lee Soo-jin appeared as a hologram. Nari, I have news. The Galactic Council has formally recognized the human colonial territory as a major power. We have been invited to join the High Assembly. That is wonderful news, Admiral. There is more. The Council wants to discuss making the artifact technology available to all member species. They are calling it the Heritage Protocol. The idea that the ancient technology should be shared with any species that demonstrates the right qualities. Nari felt a moment of concern. What qualities are they talking about? Intelligence, adaptability, compassion for other species, and the wisdom to use power responsibly. They want you to head the selection committee. Me? Who else? You are the only person in the galaxy who truly understands how the technology works, and your handling of the Vorthon situation has impressed everyone. You could have destroyed their entire fleet, but instead you chose justice over revenge. After Admiral Lee signed off, Nari sat quietly for a moment. A year ago, she had been a naive archaeologist who believed that cooperation between species would happen naturally. Now she was being asked to help decide which civilizations deserved access to the most powerful technology in the galaxy. Heavy thoughts? Jinho asked. I keep thinking about what Thexval said, that the galaxy belongs to the strong. Do you think he was right? Nari looked out at the ships in the docking bay. She could see Zelkari artists working alongside human engineers, Kethron philosophers debating with Earth scientists, and children from a dozen different species playing together in the station's parks. No, she said finally. The galaxy belongs to those who can learn, who can change, who can work together despite their differences. Strength is not about dominating others, it is about lifting them up. A soft chime indicated another message. This one was from the monitoring station on Justice. Dr. Kim, you might want to see this, the duty officer said. Your exile has made contact with another survivor. The hologram switched to show Thexval's shelter. He was sitting by a small fire sharing food with a Kethran female who looked injured and exhausted. The Kethran were a peaceful species with fur-covered faces and large, gentle eyes. This one appeared to be a merchant whose ship had crashed nearby. Nari watched as Thexval carefully cleaned the alien's wounds and offered her water from his recycler. The proud Vorthon commander who had once abandoned his own mate was now risking his own survival to help a stranger. He is changing, Jinho observed. Yes, he is. Over the following weeks, Nari monitored Thexval's progress with growing interest. The Kethran merchant, whose name was Velnara, had a broken leg that would not heal properly without medical attention. Thexval could have taken her supplies and left her to die. It would have improved his own chances of survival. Instead, he built a better shelter for both of them, shared his food equally, and even taught her the survival skills he had painfully learned. When a rescue ship finally detected their distress beacon, Thexval insisted that Velnara be evacuated first. I have been here longer, he told the rescue crew. I can wait, but Velnara refused to leave without him. This person saved my life, she said. He is coming with me. Nari made her decision. A week later, she stood in the same medical bay where she had first recovered from her own desert ordeal. But this time she was visiting someone else. Thexval lay in the recovery bed, looking thin and scarred but alive. His crystalline skin had lost its perfect luster, marked now by lines and wear. When he saw Nari enter, he struggled to sit up. Nari, he said, and his voice carried none of its old arrogance. I did not expect to see you again. I wanted to see how you were recovering. Better than I deserve. He looked down at his hands. I have had time to think about what I did to you. About the person I was. And I was wrong. About everything. About humans, about strength, about what it means to be worthy. He met her eyes. I am sorry. I know that does not change what I did, but I needed to say it. Nari studied her former mate. The proud commander who had abandoned her was gone, replaced by someone who understood what it meant to depend on the kindness of others. Velnara speaks very highly of you, she said. She is a good person, better than I ever was. People can change, Thexval. The desert taught me that. It taught you too. What happens now? Do I go back to prison? Nari shook her head. The Vorthan government has agreed to parole you into my custody. If you want it, there is a position waiting for you at the Cultural Exchange Institute, assistant researcher working on projects to help refugees from the war zones. Thexval stared at her in amazement. You would trust me with that? I would trust the person who shared his last water with a dying stranger. The person who built shelter for someone else before taking care of himself. Nari smiled. Besides, you have unique qualifications. You understand what it is like to lose everything and have to start over. Later, Nari and Jinho walked through the Institute's halls together. Through the windows, they could see the stars and the ships that carried hope between worlds. Do you think he will work out? Jinho asked. I think he has the potential. The desert changed him just like it changed me. And if he goes back to his old ways, then we deal with it. But I do not think he will. He learned something important out there, that survival is not about being the strongest. It is about being worthy of other people's help. Nari's final log entry that night read, The ancient civilization that built the artifacts understood something important. True strength comes not from dominating others but from lifting them up. They designed their technology to respond to